about football. And wild allegations and revelations were made in a video in which football officials were seen taking money from people to corrupt the game. And there was also one very huge allegation against Nyantakyi for taking money from some foreigners to actually do some construction work. But given the fact that he is the president of the Football Association and also an important member of the FIFA Executive Council and the Confederation of African Football, he resigned his position. He was sacked, I think, by FIFA. Then he resigned his position as Football Association president in Ghana, etc., etc. Then the government proceeded to liquidate the Ghana Football Association, as it were, to cancel the GFA as a company and set up a new one of sorts. People celebrated that because there was wide expectations that everything was going to change in Ghana football, all the corruption was going to be over. FIFA came in and said that you cannot liquidate the Ghana Football Association. Go back and withdraw your action of liquidation, which the government duly obliged. FIFA then said that we'll set up a normalization committee, which we will set up as FIFA. Ghana government may have suggested the names, we suspect they did. And FIFA came into the country and announced to journalists here that a normalization committee has been set up. And then after that, the committee is supposed to work until March next year. Their tenure could be renewed. But what are they supposed to do? They are supposed to make some corrections and then guide the Ghana Football Association to an election, which was due anyway under Kwesi Nyantakyi. The concern by many people then was that Mr. Nyantakyi wanted to represent himself for presidency. This time, that election will happen, but without Mr. Nyantakyi. Observers are worried that perhaps it will be another football cabal. Maybe they are anti-Nyantakyi, but they are also the football cabal. There's wide expectation that Fred Papo could win that election. Fred is a one-time vice president of the Football Association and seems to be quite popular over there. So will something change with the GFA? My guest in the studio, Gary Al Smith and Samuel Bartels, will ride us into that. Gary, when you left that press conference at the normalization committee, did you also feel the sense that some people are feeling that really it doesn't look like anything will change?
Well, yes and no. I mean, we've always had that expectation that apart from the people who were seen on the announced video to have actually collected monies and who were then bastardized and given a bad name and hanged and all that, all the others who were not directly involved will come back to football. Why? Because there isn't any new constituency of people out there. If there is, they are not large. It's not a large constituency of people who are ready to go into the daily grind of managing football in this country, meaning being in charge of clubs and being generally in charge of football affairs in this country. So the so-called football people are the same people who are going to be back. So it's essentially going to be a new regime. So yes, we are going to see a lot of them turn coat from some statements that they've made in the past. So it's going to be an interesting time.
But that's not what would have happened if the Football Association had been dissolved.
Yes.
If the GFA had been dissolved and what we had, the Ghana Football Federation was created, it will open up the opportunity for people to come in.
Yeah, but then again, it's the same old football people who, I mean, you can't stop somebody from joining the new entity if it were ever formed.
Yes.
Because they were part of the old entity. They are citizens of Ghana.
Yeah, absolutely, you can't. But they would have given the government a greater role to make a determination that this person was qualified, this person was not qualified, isn't it? Sure. And that's what people were expecting. That's not going to happen.
No.
Okay. The FIFA people told us, Mr. Bartels, that whatever has to be done according to FIFA statutes.
Yeah.
Does it mean that we are back at the old level? Because at the old level, everything that was done since 2005 has been done in consonance with FIFA statutes. Is that correct?
Yes, and then also no. The FIFA statutes generally guides football across the country, and everything has to be within the framework of that. But even the FIFA statute has been amended, especially after FIFA had its own issues. And so there are clauses that have been amended, expanded, contracted, and new things that have been added to it as well. The question as to whether we'll go back to the old things depends on what you judge as the old things and what you judge as the new things. Gary has mentioned the fact that it's the same constituency of people that you are dealing with. But I still think that certain things will change, perhaps not up to the expectations of the public. And so the public have perhaps every right to feel aggrieved. But what did the public expect? I think when these things happened, the initial reaction was quite emotive, maybe sometimes even unrealistic. I don't think the government completely thought through its actions. Right from scratch, I said that assuming FIFA had not even stepped in, that dissolution would not have worked. Because the look, you're going to dissolve an organization, you're going to wind it up. And clearly the basis of the winding up was going to be difficult to establish. That the leg they were going was that it was being used for an unlawful purpose. You would have to then, what then becomes an unlawful purpose? And would you have shown enough consistency of actions? And would you have taken Mr. Nyantakyi's action and generally said that this was an action of an entire organization? So that was always going to be difficult. And so at a point, when the quick fix solution that was sold to everybody by the government didn't appear to be working, people started getting frustrated. So I think in the end, government would have come out of this worse off. The FIFA intervention is a win-win situation for everybody because government can claim victory and FIFA can also claim victory. The question then becomes, what next? And for me, this is the critical thing because if we do not manage the process, I'm not about who is on it, but how they go about the process. Yeah. Let me put things in context. During the August 16th statement that FIFA issued, they said, and I'll read 2, 3, and 4, it says they were going to work closely with government to eradicate corruption. 2, they were going to establish a task force to create proper disciplinary governance and auditing measures. And then 4, establish the normalisation committee. So the normalisation committee has been established. The first 2, we are still not sure yet. Now remember, one of the expectations people had was that the people who were involved in this were going to be put away. Has anybody been put away
to be
yet?
sacked from the FA?
No, that people were going to be convicted, that people were going to be jailed for this. It was one of the expectations people had.
Well, but apart from Mr. Nyantakyi, who else would you say? The referees?
Mr. Nyantakyi is not being jailed.
Okay, yes. So the referees?
So perhaps the referees, some other top officials who were found.
Blue and others.
No, but you see, I think that his contention, before you go on, is that the perception was that, Sikidi Achio.
So that they were going to go to something. The gallows.
Yes, it was the impression created. So you see, the unrealistic public expectations has something to do with the sort of communication that came from the powers that be.
Yeah.
So it raised the expectations immeasurably high, which is where the disappointment might come in. Because people should then have realized that what they saw was not enough to get a conviction against anybody. That perhaps, so Mr. Nyantakyi only fell foul ethically, and FIFA has taken the actions. But locally, no substantive action has been taken against it because it will be hard to prove anything.
Actually, the Attorney General has said that she's not received any docket of.
But that is not the impression given to the public. You see again where you draw the line between the politics and the actual actions which are measurable and can be accomplished. Now, what then happens next? Because these people are out. The other thing you do not know is whether because of these findings, and no specific findings have been made against these people, whether any of these are disqualified from whatever elections will take place after the normalisation committee.
Well, the normalisation committee should be able to take that action, shouldn't they? To disqualify, say, an Ibrahim Sani. We are hearing that Ibrahim is going to be out and Michael is going to be in.
But so it is in those pockets that opportunities might come in. Because what are they doing? They are running their daily affairs.
This normalisation.
And they are going to cooperate with the task force. I'm just going to raise a few. So who are the task force?
The police, maybe.
I understand from speaking to a few important people that this might be a team put together by FIFA and the government. As to what their specific terms of reference are, we do not know yet. But remember, the putting away of people and other things is not something that the normalisation committee will be seized with power to. It has to be an act of the state. And we don't know whether that can be done or not. Now, they are going to review the statutes to ensure compliance with FIFA statutes.
Are the statutes not already in compliance with FIFA statutes?
The statutes are already in compliance with FIFA statutes. But the institutions under the statutes and a lot of things spelled out by the statutes may not be enough to cure the mischief which occurred and which was exposed.
Executive emergency committee.
So let me raise a few things.
I know that's your favorite committee, Gary. Emergency committee. That's a powerful
five-member committee that acts in between the executive committee taking place. I think we can always take a cue from FIFA. They mentioned that the review of the statutes has to be in conformity with FIFA statutes, CAF and all that, but particularly Article 15 of the FIFA statute.
Which is what?
So let's find out what's in Article 15. I'll just pick a few which are applicable. Now, the C talks about independence. Now, remember
independence
that... Great.
Of the Football Association.
And
independent of government.
No. Independent of government without political interference. Now, after this happened, government created the impression that we needed to rein these people in.
Yes. Correct.
Now, the objective of this normalization committee would include reinforcing that age-old FIFA creed that the associations have to remain independent.
Of political interference.
Of political interference. So that's the
So the normalization committee has to sit opposite the government on the table.
No, not opposite the government.
Well, but the normalization committee is supposed to end.
So that's just one. He just said
they're supposed to enhance Article 15, which says ensure independence.
No,
ensure
that's
independence.
C.
Okay.
15C.
Okay.
Now,
not the
on the
thing.
5, you know, you're going to regulate matters relating to refereeing. We've seen that the existing structures and statute did not do a proper job regulating this. And also, you know, registration of players, player licensing, imposition of disciplinary measures, including for ethical misconduct.
Okay, so there you can get people who are on the video.
I can tell you that the Code of Ethics of the FA captures issues relating to officials not taking commission. Officials not taking
gifts. So then the evidence in the video becomes relevant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it also, there's something about local practices that the amount you take as a gift must not exceed what is that? So in doing the
must not exceed what? What is locally acceptable?
What is locally acceptable? And what is locally acceptable? Yes. And
so those monies that were offered the referees, 100 cedis and that kind of.
Was it locally acceptable?
Yeah,
I say that something like that. When the normalization committee reviews this, such clauses are too ambiguous and give people the leeway to do this. These things must be taken out. Now, the other thing that comes is measures to protect the integrity of the game, which is what was compromised when the referees did what they did.
Yeah.
Now, again on 15, H talks about defining the competencies of the decision-making bodies. Now, over time, we feel that the emergency committee has become too powerful. The position of the presidents, competence of decision-making bodies.
The bodies, not the individuals.
No, the bodies.
Okay.
So perhaps we have to re-examine the bodies that will be established.
The powers of the emergency committee.
And the powers. And you need to necessarily ensure that there's enough control and then there's checks and balances to ensure that no one person becomes too powerful. The J talks about legislative bodies, right? And that is a follow-up to the H. And then the last one is yearly independent audit of accounts.
GFA account.
Oh, that what didn't used to happen.
Yeah. Critical. Yeah. But more so, taking a leaf from FIFA is the transparency aspect of it. Publishing it, sharing it with the public, because FIFA has gone to the extent of publishing the compensation of its officers, which is something that did not happen before for the Ghana Football Association. And you'd expect that the normalization
so there'll be some positives in there. There'll be some positives, hopefully, but I don't know whether it's a task that the normalization committee is able to achieve, you know, given their size and everything. Gary, now, football people were worried.
That's a good point.
We will come to that. The normalization committee is size, and that's really...
It's not just the size, but the larger point you were making. Forget about the size.
6 months.
Forget about the time.
The tenure.
The job.
The job. It looks like a very detailed work.
Yes.
You need KPMG to do that.
That's the point.
Or Pricewaterhouse to do that.
You see,
or Deloitte.
What are they going to do? So yesterday I had
let's answer this question. Football people think they've been ignored in putting up this committee together. It was widely expected that at least, apart from Kofi Amwa, who actually superintended over CAN 2008, in terms of a conceptual leader and business leader, that's what Kofi Amwa was for the event, because this event was supposed to, the football things we know how to do, but he was brought in to sort of spearhead the event and make it a global sort of event, which he did with 2,000% success. So he himself is not the kind of football person. But in that, even in the CAN 2008, you saw that his vice president was Jaula, and you know, all the football people were sort of in there somewhere. Rex Dankwa was in. These football people are thinking that they've been ignored in this committee, and that in the football sort of context, when you're doing things and you ignore them, they're going to give you a hard time, you know. So Kujo Fianu has been back and forth. He was not there as Galka and all of that. Is that going to affect the morale around the GFA?
Oh, yes, it's going to. It's going to, because, but then again, this will, a surprise inclusion of football people would have been something that I did not expect, because I had said many times, based on, again, the FIFA normalization committees that have been formed in other countries and their composition, that there was not going to be one football person on this. I knew. Why? The public in every one of these situations, including in Ghana, were baying for the blood of the football people. Imagine the public reaction if they saw one football person on it. And something instructive happened on Thursday.
But the public were not worried when Sandro Butler was mentioned, for instance.
On Thursday morning, it was leaked or it was conveniently put out there that at 10 a.m. this was going to happen, the press conference. And it was put out there that these were the names on it. Between the morning when it came or the evening before 11 p.m. and 10 a.m., the amount of public backlash against the name Alhaji Jaula.
There's a lot of vitriol.
There was so much vitriol. And this is Alhaji Jaula. I mean, for all intents and purposes, one of the most respected names. When was the last time you even publicly heard his name being breathed in the same breath as corruption? And the amount of vitriol was enough for the committee to delay the press conference naming for 2.5 hours. We waited.
Also, he was deleted eventually?
He was deleted eventually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it was supposed to be a 5-member committee with his name there.
Okay.
He was supposed to be the 5th person. You know,
5 minutes.
so they took out his name.
Oh, I will work so.
And basically, they didn't add his name. The official reason, of course, at the press conference, they didn't say that Alhaji Jaule was supposed to be there. But they just said that there's more, there could be more names there.
He reserved the right to add and take out.
Basically. So you see, as for the football people, if they thought their names were going to be there, they were badly mistaken. And I would be surprised if they expected their names to be there.
Oh, may I add that?
You know.
Although it's a normalization,
We have to be wrapping up though.
Sure.
There's nothing normal about this process. It's an extraordinary situation. That's how come you have a committee to attempt to normalize it. The second more logical reason is that, you know, a lot of the football people might have an eye on competing for places when the elections are open. Putting yourself in a normalization committee means you rule yourself out, because they will also be the electoral commission. And so you cannot be in the normalization committee and stand for any of the positions subsequently. But just a quick point, again, on the fears that the football people might come back. Again, there's another key thing that the normalization committee has to do. In setting the rules, we have seen FIFA do integrity checks, the eligibility checks, which did not exist. When you check the Football Association, their basis for competing for a role was ownership, directorship, or other senior official position for at least 2 years within a club, basically. And they talk about application of Section 182 of the Companies Act, but it wasn't really used to the letter, because and when you tighten the screws, it means certain people will no longer be eligible for those positions.
Now, this reaction to the Jaula thing, will it recur when the normalization committee finishes and there are elections and we hear the old names? Will it come back?
Well, that would be interesting, because you see, up to this point, a lot of football people, especially the serious ones who have wanted to go for positions, were looking for an opportunity to say, oh, Ghana, let's lay low. When it is time, we'll come back. They may be in for a rude shock based on what we saw last week.
Yeah, but if they are the people qualified to do it, because they are
one
members
thing
of the Football Association.
that I want everybody to understand is that the normalization committee, despite being a FIFA, they are going to be extremely sensitive to the public temperature.
Yes, but I'm saying that the qualification of other people doesn't exist. You are not qualified to...
Sammy just made a point about the screws, tightening the screws. Every step of the way, the normalization committee will be measuring the public temperature. That will determine whether the rules that will be made will be so tight that...
Because the elections will be based on the review. The elections will be based on the review statutes. So the question is, what will be in the review statutes?
But
what will be the
standard? But to what extent can new people come in? If I want to run for GFA president, I have to go and be a club must propose me. And
that is now for us to do. That is the opportunity we have to be able to make sure that...
But the electorate are going to be the football people, so they will not vote for you.
Yes, but you see, it's I don't want to say I have hope in that. It's an opportunity. And if we want to take it, we will take it. We can allow the football people to do it, but make the rules so whatever it is that...
Okay, so that's going to be GFA chairman, this must be your CV, this must be your achievements, this must be your that.
And then the background checks. But not only the rules, but then the composition of the electoral college,
the new GFA,
because obviously eventually there will be a new Congress.
People the electoral college. Okay, that's interesting.
Congress up until now has been made of core football people, club representatives. They will still be there, but there have been suggestions that let's redefine the composition and bring in other people.
And add groups like what, for instance?
So, for instance, people believe that PFAG, people like the old footballers should have a bigger role. And you should have more representatives within. In Europe, they've tried to bring in more women groups. in order to ease the
football journalists,
the gender gap. Supporters are now being urged in other places.
Registered
supporters,
precisely to have representatives.
And
what that does is that it expands the base and give other people the opportunity to come in and decide who can be president or who can have any other position.
Last point.
Last opportunity.
Last point.
Sami has done a lot of the talking, but he's been absolutely spot on. All I'd say is that the Ghanaian psyche about issues is to talk about it, leave the people who have been, forget about it. Then when they bring in the new rules, we start talking about it, by which time it's too late. If we keep our eye on the prize, especially for the sports journalist, and police this process every step of the way, we can get something.
Are they going to sit in public normalization committee? How are you going to?
That is all going to be no.
They are an administration.
So will they be reporting every now and then periodically?
Yeah, they have to send. It's part
they
of the thing.
They are not bound to report to us.
Not to us,
to FIFA.
but
FIFA will be tracking their movement.
Okay, what about the government, the Ministry of Sports?
Again, with an eye on the independence. I think where they come in is this proposed task force that we understand they are going to form, and whatever
finally,
their role be.
If
I could just say this.
Sure.
Quickly.
This is an exceptional situation. It's an opportunity for Ghanaians to show that it's not just the talk, they are committed. You know why? Because we don't have a good track record for reforms. We don't have a good track record for implementing
in every sector of the economy.
We've seen all the commissions that have been formed. We've seen all the recommendations. They've all been botched. So let's prove that we can do
That's
this.
a good one. Okay. Thank you very much. I don't think we get too much hope from this, the conversation of both of you, but we hope that...
It's just laying it bare.
We hope that
and Anas was prophetic
when
when he said that actually to be journalists who will build. Because everybody else, tomorrow, on Thursday on Good Evening Ghana, you're going to discuss something else.
Yeah, of course.
But we are going to be chasing the story. So if it's not us, nobody else is going to do it.
Okay, thank you very much, Gary and Samuel Bartels. And thank you, viewers, for watching. That's Good Evening Ghana. Thanks for your time. We'll be back next Thursday with another live edition. Good night.